Morning.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing?
Good morning.
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Let's give it about 5 minutes to see who jumps into this party we're about to have. And we'll get rolling. How you doing, Jim?
Hey,
Hey, Joe. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning.
Morning. Morning, Phyllis. Hi, Kelly. We haven't met in person, but I love hearing you on
Hi.
Power Sessions.
Hey, can you tell me if you can hear me right now?
Perfectly.
Okay, because yesterday my audio, it didn't work.
Okay. Hey, Brian. How you doing, buddy?
Good, are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
So we're getting a few more people on here. I see Max ready to roll. Deep focus. Let's see. And Blake should also be joining us at some point to talk about Command and using that technology piece to leverage not only your business, but the business planning as well. So hopefully he'll join us at some point.
I can't hear.
Hi, Samantha.
Hey, Justin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, this is the first time I'm teaching this, so we're going to go through this adventure together.
Sounds like a good adventure.
If you want to take over anytime, that's totally fine as well.
Oh yeah, they'll learn a lot from me.
But the biggest thing is that everyone on this call so far, and I know it's growing, but this is major. The fact that you all are deciding to take some time out of your day to realize how important this is. And it's no coincidence that we're doing it right now in November. By the time we hit, say, middle of December, you start to kind of have that itch of, I should have done what I already had planned to do. I should already know what my goals are for next year. So this is the right time. And I'll also tell you that there is going to be some updates to this business planning clinic as well. And when I have those updates for you, there's going to be some new material that's going to be taught within the next few weeks. We can eventually do another one of these, but it's the most important is that we start getting engaged with this right now.
Just tell me, I'm curious.
yeah, no, I don't know. We're supposed to.
I'm ready.
Morning,
Was there a specific time?
9:30.
So Alfredo, I think you're not on mute.
So I mean, are you not like putting this stuff in your calendar and like?
Yeah,
Okay, I mean, just let her know, text her now and say, and tell her when.
So let me see if I can mute.
What's sorry to do this, but I mean, you. Oh, are we on?
Okay, I can do it myself. Okay, so let's get into this. So how this one is really about contribution. So, sorry for the noise. I would love to hear everybody's feedback in real time of, once again, sorry for the noise. I got a gardener outside my home office window right now. Good timing on that. The more we talk about our own experiences, the more we share, the more we can learn from each other. And there is no real secret sauce to success in what we do. It's all about being intentional, being purposeful, being consistent, and being focused. And this is a massive step in that direction. What does a business plan do for us? I mean, it has built-in accountability. It lets us course correct. It lets us not be confused about how we should spend our day. You know, so often we wake up, we do a few things, and then we think to ourselves, okay, now what? Where should we go from here? When you have a business plan, you don't have that reason to be confused. You don't have that place to be in wonder about how you should be spending your time. It's not only data backed, but it's also backed with real reasoning behind the data. So that's what's fun. And we think to ourselves, what really stops us from following through? You know, why do we have big ideas and not take it from idea into real life? You know, what stops us from even executing our goals? And this business plan hopefully should be that mirror that we all need. It doesn't matter what our production is, to be able to say, hey, this is what's going to get me to a better place, increase success, and ultimately feel better about ourselves and the way we're spending our time. So, you know, as we're going through these numbers, you should think to yourselves, whatever your goals are, and hopefully you all completed the kind of pre-worksheet. If you haven't, that's okay. But it'll definitely help get you in that mindset of how you're looking at your business today. So if we think about, okay, what if our goal is 300,000 for 2021, and we want our goal to be 600,000 for 2022 and 850 for 2023 or 2024? What if I were to tell you today that you're going to make 850,000 in GCI by 2023? Would you put in the effort today, knowing you're not going to see those numbers until a couple years from now? And if the answer is yes, and I see some head nods, Kat, love it. You know, we have to know that this is a long game. This is not a sprint we're on right now. But the more we create these habits that are sustainable, and the more we realize that we deserve this, the more purposeful we'll be, and the less likely it is that we'll fall off track. We'll be able to stay on track and know that each day is important, because it gets us and when I say, you know, I'm using these financial goals because that is part of this model. I've taught business planning courses before, never with the Keller Williams model. And I'm using that, and let's be clear, you know, it's the money is just the options that it's going to create for you. That's what this is, right? We all know that money there's no direct correlation from money to happiness, but it's going to create options for you. And we like options, whether we are investing that money to create passive income that some of us on this call have already done, whether you're able to support your family in a more meaningful way, give money to charity, just have options, just feel a little freer with our life. You know, we all been reminded this year how short life is by what has happened around us. So we don't need any more reminders. So when we think about these numbers, money is never the enemy. It's not the root of all evil. It is options for us. That's what it's about. So let's think about it in that way. And what we do with it is where we can create impact with ourselves and our loved ones. And how much are we willing to do to get to where we want to go? I mean, that's what this is really all about. And I hope that you being on this call, it's a first step in that direction. You know, when we think about the conversion ratio and the cold calling, these purposeful action steps to get there. Once again, sorry for the noise. Are we going to call for 2 hours a day, or are we going to call until we get that appointment that we're looking for? What's more important? The 2 hours a day is important because that shows that it's a finite number. And if we do it consistently, then we will have eventual positive outcomes. but let's stretch a little bit and say, okay, I'm sitting down in this chair. I'm doing this for a reason. Maybe I'm going to sit here until I have a positive outcome that day. And maybe that ends up being the bigger thing. You have 2 hours as your marker, but what if it's about this bigger thing that you want to see a result that you're going to feel really good about? And we also know that this is not about getting a result that day. And if you don't get it, then we give up. This is not about us making 50 calls a day for 5 days a week. And if we don't get any results from that week, then we give up. This is the long game, just like relationships with our clients are all about long term. We're not selling products that people buy, use, and throw out. This is about building relationships with people. That takes time. So why wouldn't it take time to be able to start that process of fostering those relationships with clients? But it starts with you, and it starts with you being on this phone call, just like it is if you're not on this phone call, but you're doing something intentional. So I want to once again just applaud everybody for being here. And I also want to mention, and it's really important, there's no one path to success, okay? It's not about doing what someone else is doing and think that you're going to get there. It's about really focusing on our own individual strengths and also making ourselves a little uncomfortable, trying things that we wouldn't normally do to see if that leads to a stronger conversion. But you can get there your own way, as long as you're intentional and we're avoiding some of the obvious mistakes. You can make $1 million or 500,000 or wherever your goals are a lot of different ways. So hopefully that should create a little bit of comfort and satisfaction knowing you're going to create your own blueprint. This is all about you. That's like the artistry and creativity about what we do. You know, let's not get caught up in thinking we have to do it a certain way, talk a certain way, hold ourselves a certain way. We're accountable to ourselves. That's it. That's the main thing. If we go to sleep at night and we feel that, that's what's important. It's not what anyone else is doing. Now, saying that though, we know that success does leave clues, and modeling, basic general modeling of what a lot of real estate agents are continuing to do and have done before you helps sometimes eliminate that initial confusion and gives us a kind of an outline with there are certain required steps that we all want to take. But there is creativity within all of that for a chance for you to all show who you are as people. So let's not lose sight of that. None of your clients want to hear some canned response. None of your clients want to hear a response that someone else would give. They want you to show you to them. We're very much in that era, and thankfully so, in the real estate industry, where it's always advised for people to show who they are, to show their full personality. And that's what's appreciated. So why not be kind of front facing with that? So I just want to kind of engage with that. Also, as we're going through this course today, we also want to think about creating a stop doing list. So we all come to today and to our lives with things that habits that we would wish we wouldn't have. I taught a recent course about creating better habits. I know a few of you that I see here were on that as well. And it's important to also, as we're creating this business plan, we want to take a different version of ourselves into the future, whether it's into 2021, into next week, it doesn't really matter. So let's also be intentional about creating a list of things we want to stop doing, changes we want to make. And the more focused we are in making these changes, the easier and clearer it will be for us to actually have the right solutions and the right success as we create this business plan. So I think we're ready to have some fun. Once again, first time I'm teaching this, so let's go through it together. So with a show of hands, how many people actually did complete that pre-work assignment? Okay, so at least the people that I can see, that's a pretty good number. So that's good. Okay, Jim, I see you on mute, but I see you're holding up something. So,
I have it
Um,
printed out.
okay, great. So did that help everyone at least get into that right kind of mindset of certain things to think about? Yes, I'm seeing some head nods. Okay. And once again, this is all about kind of engagement from all of you. So feel free to talk whenever you have something to contribute. Most likely what you're contributing, others are feeling. So we have a strong group here. Well, you know, one of the greatest things about this office is the culture that we all are here to help each other. So, you know, don't be shy about sharing your experience, and definitely don't be embarrassed to share anything, because I'm sure whatever you're feeling, if someone isn't feeling it today, they have felt it in the past. And we
Justin,
all
should
can
I
kind of,
stop and do it? Should I do, I didn't do the worksheet. Should I stop and
you
do
can,
that?
you can kind of, you know, you can do it as we're going through this. There will be different kind of breakout sessions as well. So, we should kind of keep the momentum going, but yeah, I would say just start to think about it. And some of it you guys have probably thought about already, you know, prior to even this phone call. So let's kind of jump into it. Now this, by the way, this MREA model, this doesn't come from nowhere. This comes from many successful capping millionaire real estate agents being interviewed across the country. So even though the LA market is a very specific market, and we should do things that are purposeful with the market we're in, not what people are doing in other markets, which might not make any sense for the LA market, and often they don't. This was, you know, this data comes from somewhere. So it's important to know that the leaders in Keller Williams were very purposeful in how to kind of compile this data, and it just, we know what has worked in the past, so most likely it will work in the future as long as you put your own personality into it. So there are a set of models, and you know, there's going to be a natural ceiling of achievement that we can kind of create on our own without using a business plan at all. This is just about why you all have decided to get into this profession. You know, hopefully you're all kind of social creatures who come from a place of service and wants to help people and wants to make money and wants to have the flexibility of schedule and career and life and travel and do all these other fun things that come with being a successful professional. But that alone will not be enough if we are just kind of without a game plan. So we can get far, but it's not ultimately sustainable for the long term. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're creating this map so you can sustain it for the long term. And we can punch through these goals and then create another business plan that we're stretching a little further, either, you know, halfway through the year, a quarter way through the year. It's important to look at this business plan after you create it, start working it. And then if we're not getting the results we want, this business plan is your way to go back and say, okay, let's course correct. Let's figure out, are my ratios accurate? If I'm not converting a certain number, where do I have to like fill in the pieces to potentially change that? So, so that's really important. Sorry once again about the blowing in the background. Hopefully that'll stop soon. So now let's get into for a little bit our big why. I assume at this point kind of everybody knows what that is. I'll give a really brief explanation. It's what gets us up in the morning. What's our anchor beyond the money? What lets us attack our day with total purpose when we don't want to? When sometimes it's difficult to even put 2 feet on the ground, getting up from bed, or even just getting through the hours of the day. But if we have these anchors, and sometimes it needs to be just one, and it can be different ones at different points in your life, that helps guide us and helps us push forward with the day. Does anyone want to share what their big why is? Don't think I'm not going to start calling on people. I'll do it. I will do it. Anyone? There's no wrong answers here. This is a total personal thing.
Would you repeat your question, please?
Yes. What is your big why? What is your anchor for your business beyond the money? We all know that money does not buy happiness. So why are we doing what we're doing? What helps us get through the day when we don't want to? That's when the big why really shows up.
I would say
Wait.
like, I want to help people. Like, I want to help people become more prosperous by selling their property, buying an investment property. I want to help people. I have had my own success with real estate, and I feel like that is something that I want to share with other people. How can I help people? I know that it's money oriented, but it's about helping other people be prosperous.
What does helping people do for you?
I think it makes people happy. I think money is an important thing for people, especially, you don't want to make the wrong mistake with real estate. So like directing people in a way that's going to help them maintain their prosperity, increase their prosperity. It's a way of helping people. I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. So you're talking about helping other people. That makes you feel good. Why does it make you feel good?
Like I do feel like at this point in my life, like I'm comfortable, I have a good life, and I want to help other people. And it starts with some of the people that I know, like friends that I know who, want to get involved, want to have prosperity based on real estate, want to stop renting, I don't know. I guess I have to hone this a little bit more, but
Right.
the idea being, I don't know. I need to hone this more.
Yeah, no, it's a good start though. It really is a good start. I mean,
I do feel like when I have a conversation with people about a multi-unit properties or a duplex or, having their own home or condo, they get excited because it's something that they want to do, or if they're in it, maybe they want to upgrade. So I always feel like that's an exciting conversation for me to have with people.
Yeah, I can see that. And you're absolutely right. I think it's important to dig a little deeper, for you to dig a little deeper with that, and because it's really about helping people, but why are we doing it? Sometimes it gets to this core of like, even in our childhood, why we're doing what we're doing. Kelly, do you want to expand on what you put in the chat box? Because that's kind of fun.
Oh, sorry.
Kelly, you
Sure.
want to?
Well, yeah, I've done this business planning classes before with the Keller Williams agenda, and I always work on my big why. And I know that some people are really motivated to go towards something positive, and some people are more motivated to run from something negative. So my big why is to kind of prove myself and kind of make it, be a success, both to prove to people that have doubted me in the past and said, kind of not been supportive. I say haters, but I'm sure nobody hates
Right.
me.
Right.
But like those unsupportive little, nah, why are you doing that? Why do you live in such an expensive apartment? Why do you do this? Those people that they're just small-minded and they doubt you, and they doubt, what you're trying to do, and to run from the negative consequences of not being successful. So I'm more motivated from that.
The haters.
kind of trying being competitive. I'm highly competitive, but it doesn't present itself as like not supportive of other people. It's an internal competition. Like, I got to do it. I got to talk to 20 people today. I got to get a listing this month. I've got, so it's like, I look at every year I track, like I made this much, then I made this much, then I made this, so I'm always trying to beat my results from last year to do better than I did last month. So it's an internal competition. I'm like a taskmaster. I'm a big, like, drill sergeant for myself. With other
Right.
people, I'll be supportive and pushing and loving and, trying to get people inspired. And never feel like I'm going to sabotage someone, or I don't want my agent friends and my friends to have success. I want everybody to have success and firmly believe that there's enough for all of us to be wildly successful. But I really know myself, in my psychology, and like waking up like, oh, I want to provide for my daughter. I'll just go back to bed because she's like, her room's a pigsty and she's making me mad and she just yelled at me. So I'm like, I'm not doing anything for her today. But if I wake up and I'm like, oh, like I got to do it because so-and-so said I couldn't, or just like thinking about that, or thinking about how someone else is just kind of petty and mean to me, and they're doing really well. I'm like, well, I want to do really well too. I want to like show up for myself and just, feel really proud of myself. So it's a little different kind of motivation, but that's really my big why, is kind of just wanting to prove myself. I'm the underdog, always in my own mind. I'm like Rudy.
What happens when you run out of the haters? Eventually that runs out. Then what?
It's not like I think of a specific person.
Right.
It's just
No, I know.
my internal kind of drill sergeant is always there in a healthy way, like Lou Gossett Jr. yelling at Richard Gere in Officer and a Gentleman. I mean, he really needed to be yelled at. He really needed to hit bottom before he could pull himself up, and he succeeded. So that's Lou Gossett Jr. lives inside me, and that's my big why. It's never going to go away. There's always a voice in my head saying like, you are not good enough. You have to do better. And it's an honest voice. Like if I make 5 calls and then like play on Instagram for like an hour, that's, I need to like, that's kind of like just how I motivate myself and how I go. And then at the end of a long day, I can sleep well because I know I put in the work. I put in the work and I did it. And I want, so my big why is just to prove to myself.
Which is, that's great. That's great. I mean, having an internal competitor is massively powerful, as long as you're continuing to feed that side, and also giving yourself a pat on the back here and there when you actually do achieve those goals, right?
Yeah, you have to look at everything like, I always look at where I came from and what I'm doing now. Like whenever I get upset, I'm like, Kelly, you're selling $2 million properties. You started in Van Nuys, you started with like condos for $275,000, and so I've like built and I've grown. So I look at how I've come. Like, yeah, I'm not making $900,000 a year. I'm not Chad Lund. I'm not, these great agents that are my friends and that I love. But I look at that stuff. So it's a balance. It's always a balance in self-care and self-love. But I do get motivated by wanting to prove other people wrong.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's stay with what you just said for a second. So these big agents you're talking about, what do you think the difference is between what they're doing or who they are and you?
I think that the big agents are a little more disciplined and have a little bit more tough skin. Not a lot more. I'm pretty darn disciplined, but I do have, I'm very, very sensitive. And I have a lot of psychological stuff that I let get in the way. So that's why I'm coaching. That's why that's why I'm always reading self-help books and I'm always doing stuff. And, it's a mind game. Trying to get the monkey off your back and get your mind in the right mind space so that I can do it. And it's all the database. I'm trying to really hone my database. They have probably a better database, have been doing it longer, because your business is your database. Like if I call people, and most of my friends that I had in my youth when I was in my 20s, I'm in my 50s now, but when I was in my 20s, all of my friends were struggling actors. And a lot of them are still struggling actors and they can't afford a house. So, through the years, I've grown, my business has grown as my circle of friends have grown with having kids and marketing myself and just changing my social circle because I don't act anymore. But I think the big agents really, have a better database and they have a little thicker skin and they make the calls and they're a little more persistent. I know what they do. I've door knocked with Chad. I've sat and made calls with it. I'll call an agent, a big agent, and say, hey, can I shadow you for an hour while you make calls? I'm stumbling. And any agent, if you ask nicely and you are respected, will say, sure.
Right.
I have no problem being humble and saying, I don't know what I'm doing in this instance. I think I'm messing up.
Right.
Can you help me?
So that's great feedback, Kelly. I appreciate you sharing all that. These big agents that Kelly's talking about, they have mental barriers too. I promise. I know a lot of them myself. The difference is they have an anchor also. They have a big why. They have something that is pushing them through that. People create big databases not by accident. It is a long-term action with very purposeful steps. And we're going to talk about the database component a little later. But the reality is these big agents they're no different than Kelly. It's just they look at their business slightly differently. It could be a few little tweaks and really little ones that can make a massive difference in your success. But I just want that to be really clear to everyone on this call, because I know a lot of these big agents too, and some of them are my friends, and they're not superheroes. They don't have some special powers, but they do have a very specific set of guidelines with how they run their business. And they're also not all converting, 90% when they go on listing appointments either. So let's dispel that myth as well. Okay. So that leaves it open for anyone to go on those same listing appointments and to be just as prepared and to show your personality and get a listing agreement signed over someone who's been in the business 20 years or who is, grossing over $1 million a year. There's always room. There's always room. So just know that, but it starts here. So, let's think big with our goals. Let's stretch ourselves. We deserve this. We have one life. Let's go for what we really deserve. Let's also not say, okay, I want to make, 10 million in GCI next year, because most likely that will stop us from acting in the first place, because it'll be too big, too close. But if you want to get to that 10 million and you create a plan, and that's going to be in year 5, okay, that's a different story. Or in year 4, whatever makes sense, where there's a continuous build. But let's do some stretching. And once again, it's not about the number, it's about what that success will feel like to us and what we will be able to do with it. I mean, everyone on this phone call should at some point in their career be investing in real estate, for some simple reasons of how different is it when you are going on a listing presentation to say, hey, I'm just like you. I know what it feels like. I know the pain points, and I know the satisfaction in being a real estate investor. And it could be investing in apartment buildings. It could be investing in a home that has an ADU that you rent out. It could be a home that you don't even live in and you're renting it out. Some sort of source of income, or even on just the straight residential side of saying, I'm a homeowner also. I understand what it's like when, you have to replace something that, that you didn't see coming. I get that pain point. By you having that real life experience, just like all real life experiences, the more life experience you have, the easier it will be to convert sellers into signed listing agreements. That is 100% true without dispute. So that's pretty cool that we know that. That means that your success, part of your success directly correlates to you being a more well-rounded person. So that means that the hobbies that you put on the back burner, put them on the front burner. Be that person to yourself. And the more ways we can create connections with our clients, the less we will have to essentially sell ourselves with our clients. The easier it will be to build trust with our clients. So it's very important to all of your interests, have them be kind of front facing. We all want to spend time with people who are interesting. No one wants to surround ourselves with people who seem like they're one-dimensional, or they're all work and nothing else. So a really successful listing presentation often is very much just a conversation where you're talking about, yes, Keller Williams has these resources that other companies don't have, and that can be a powerful differentiator. But ultimately, you're going to get that listing agreement signed because of who you are, because if they think they can trust you for you to promote their best interest and defend their interests for the next 2 months you're doing business with them. So I would just really encourage everybody to get into that mindset as well. So let's not also set our goals too low. If we set our goals too low, we're going to hit them, and then what? And then we're back kind of in this state of confusion, yet our year is already in full swing. And then we have to stop what we're doing and try to kind of put the pieces together of, okay, now that I did that, now I have to do something else. So let's stretch a little bit. Let's not go too low, just so we can say, oh, I hit my goal, but I know I could have done more. I know I'm capable of doing more. I know I have all of the resources to do more. So that's important too. And I'm happy, to talk about everybody's goals offline as well, of what that sweet spot looks like, where you feel definitely motivated every day, but you feel like you can accomplish that as well. So I'm happy to do that. So the next thing we're going to talk about, I don't know if you all have that any of the workbook or any of that stuff in front of you, but we talk about these goals. Keller Williams talks about the right now goals, and then the goals for the daily goals, the weekly goals, the monthly goals, the yearly goals, the 5-year goals, and the someday goals. So have you all thought about any of those? Has anyone worked on that prior to this phone call? Can I get like a show of hands of anyone who has? I got a couple. Samantha and Brian definitely raised their hand. That's big. I'm not surprised. You guys are always big contributors. Let's take a few minutes. Does everyone at least have that sheet in front of them? Okay, I'm getting some head nods. Okay, getting some thumbs up. Let's take about 7 minutes right now. So I'm showing 10:39. Let's reconvene. Let's actually just reconvene at 10:45. And if you haven't written those goals, take a moment right now and write them down. I'll give them to you again. They are right now, your goals right now, what you want to accomplish. Next, they are daily goals. So what are your daily goals? You wake up in the morning, what are your goals for the day? And they're going to be consistent every day. What are your weekly goals? So you're thinking about, it's Monday, what do I want the end of my work week to look like? Then let's get a little more broad and talk about what are our monthly goals. This is all part of the planning. If we're not planning, we know the rest. We're planning to fail. So we have to think about the future. We're running businesses here. This isn't transaction to transaction. We have to think bigger. What are our yearly goals after our monthly goals? And then let's think about in the future, what are our 5-year goals? After that, our someday goals. And that's more the dream scenario, but dream becomes reality if we are purposeful with it. So take about the next 5 minutes and write some of those goals down. Let's take a couple more minutes for whoever needs it. Okay, who would like to share first? I know a few of your people are still working on it, which is fine. You can keep working on it. Anyone who's finished, who wants to jump in? No judgment. They were just sharing here. That's all.
Actually, hi.
Eddie.
Actually, it was very good because I just realized I'm talking about the goals or something, but when I want to write it, it's not very specific that I can say, okay, this is my goal for a week, this is for a month, or this is for a today. Yeah, I know, for example, today in my planner, I have to do some different stuff with the kids, or I have to call some people, or I have Airbnb, I have to do something for my Airbnb. But now when I want to write it, it was even hard to find out what is my daily goal or my weekly goal. Even I know I want to have find the listing in Bel Air, and I like to focus just on that area. But when I want to just write it, it's not that clear. That's just surprised me.
Right. Hattie, you bring up such a great point. I mean, and this is the difference in having success long term versus having success 1 year and then having a down year the next and not knowing how it all happened. You know, when we are really clear and intentional of what we're doing, we know exactly where we need to improve on because we've already mapped it out. And Hetty's bringing up this great point of this is why we're doing this whole thing. When we put it on paper, it becomes actionable. When it becomes actionable, there's built-in accountability for us. And that's what really this is about. You know, accountability really picks up where time blocking leaves off. And if we don't have accountability, then there's really not much success with this business planner. So you're going to get the best accountability through the relationships you have with yourself and through people. Hopefully you all have some sort of accountability partner. It doesn't even have to be someone in real estate, but someone who holds you accountable. You should write that person's name down right now. And if you don't have that person, make a note to find that person. It can be a colleague in the office. It can be a friend. The requirements is someone who's going to give you very unfiltered feedback. That's the main thing.
I think it can be coach as well. No?
It could be a coach as well. Absolutely. So, you know, it's somebody who is going to give it to you straight and support you while they're giving you that commentary. So also take a moment and just write down who that person is, whoever it is, because that's really important. If you don't know, that should be a major important requirement for you to find out that person. Because can we hold ourselves accountable long term? The answer is no. We can do it for a short term. We all have the ability. I think Kelly is probably great at that, given what she said it before, of the short-term accountability. But long-term, consistently, we can't. That's just not how humans are wired. We all need help. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. There's no deficit that we have in our character that we can admit that we need help. So, but find that person. Make it a part of your goal. And it doesn't have to be a person that needs accountability support from you in return. It doesn't have to be reciprocal. It can be helpful if it is, but just know that you're getting it and that you're just showing appreciation for that person who's giving it to you. That's it. So it's important to know that. And with accountability, we can track our numbers. So who wants to share based on this goal setting that we're talking about right now? Kelly.
Oh, did someone?
okay, Kelly.
I saw you raise your hand. Who was? Hey, go ahead. Who is?
I can go fast. Mine are quick.
Go ahead. No need to be quick. Go ahead.
Right. Well, they're easy. I kind of thought about it before. Right now, goals. Right now, I just want to focus on this business planning seminar, so I have something to refer to keep me on track. Daily goals. I want to work out every day, eat well, meditate, do breathing exercises, spend time with my daughter every day. Weekly goals, I want to go to church once a week and make my weekly contacts. Those are like the two things that I'll be happy if I do. If I do, my life will work out. Monthly goals, I want to close an escrow every month. Yearly goals, I want to save $100,000 to buy an investment property. 5-year goals, I want to have enough money to buy a second and hopefully third investment property. And then someday goals, I want to have enough investment properties to retire.
How many is that?
I probably need, I was just talking to a friend about this. I think if I want to live in LA, you need to have about $10 million worth of real estate, net value real estate to generate enough income to live well here. You need to have that, the rents coming in, the income coming in, to not work, to just sit on your hands all day and enjoy a good life.
So
But
write that down. Write
Yeah.
down 10.
But I don't know if I want to stay here, for forever. If I move to say, West Virginia or whatever, or South Carolina, I could live on $5 million worth of real estate.
That's great. That's fine. As long as let's get a number down though today. If
Yeah.
you end up getting on your way to 10 properties while you're still in LA, I'm pretty sure things are going the right direction, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we can always course correct, depending on the market. I own property in North Carolina, and I know that, those numbers versus LA, it's a different world.
Yeah, but if I want to own the properties in LA, and then, live somewhere else.
Right, I understand. Yeah, that's great. Who else? And by the way, before, Kelly's was perfect because she also had some personal goals, some life goals, some goals that are going to give her happiness. We're never going to look back on our life towards the end and say to ourselves, oh, I should have worked a day more. I should have worked a week more. So we're allowed to be happy now too. So those goals are just great. Really appreciate you sharing that. Who else? No wrong answers, people.
Hello.
Could you pop the assignment
Hello.
in the chat? Because I had to step away and I want to know what the assignment was, just so I can think about it as well.
Sure, I can do that. Who else wants to share?
I'll go
It's
ahead.
me here. Can you hear me?
Oh, Ellie, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting people.
No?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have my daily goals since I was a little girl. My mom always pushed me to do that. They're more personal. I have to run at least 30 minutes every day, which is kind of easy. You can do an exercise running in the neighborhood. In 3 miles, 30 minutes is, I think, fine. And then I have at least meditate for 15 or 10 minutes if I have a stressful day, even though if I don't, but I think it's still good. And now regarding to the business, contact 10 persons a day and make myself feel uncomfortable. I think that's one of the main things that we need to have in our goals. It's just there are situations that you don't want to deal sometimes with it, but you are like, okay, I have to do it. And once you do that call or you send that email, it's like, okay, you feel so relieved. And I think that's also important to add in our goals. And I have also, do my to-do list that I have every morning, something to do from the day before that I haven't done it. And I think that's also important to accomplish. Then weekly goals, I have finished something like whatever, it's a book, or if I'm taking a class, I'm taking a lot of classes. So maybe doing that. One hike in nature or going on a walk to the beach. I think that's also important for my goals. I have troubles with my monthly goals and my yearly goals. I have troubles with that I couldn't really find exactly.
Okay. So let's dig into that for a second. So first of all, with the goals that you already brought up, those are all important. I would just suggest that if you're talking about making yourself uncomfortable, write down what those activities are that make you
Okay.
uncomfortable. So you actually know, okay, here's what I want to take on and see what happens, see what that experience feels like when I do it. As far as your monthly and further out, what about it is confusing or not providing clarity for you?
Well, because I'm new here with this business. Before, for me, when I was a student, it was like, okay, I need to get these units done and keep into the next one. But here for me, I'm a little bit lost. I will say 1 escrow a month. Okay.
All right, that's great. That's 12 a year.
Yes.
That's a great number. So that's your monthly goal. 1 escrow,
Mhm.
1 closed escrow a month.
Yes. And then with the yearly goal, I'm in trouble. And with the 5 years goal too, I'm a little bit, I need to work on that.
Okay, well, keep thinking about it. You know, people that are learning this information for the first time, it takes a minute sometimes to figure it out. So keep working on it. Don't be afraid to dream. Dreams can become reality pretty easily with a plan. And anyone else want to share?
Okay, I'll go.
Yes, Phyllis.
So I'm also, new, and I mean, I'm working a fashion job that I've been doing for 12 years. So I have to do that because that's what's providing me money, but also I'm focusing on this, every day. I mean, all my days consist of are just work, 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 work. I'm checking my emails every second. I'm doing this every second. I mean, it's like, so my goals for right now are I'm adding to my database. I'm leveraging with like my swim people, my fashion people that I've worked with for many years. I'm learning, my goals for right now are just learning more about the business of real estate, learning more about listing presentations, buyer presentations. My daily goals are to learn a little bit more about my farm area. And I have to as well work on my other job. I want to at least make 10 calls a day and text 10 to 20 people a day. My weekly goals are to look at like the stats in the area, because again, that's something that I'm still trying to learn. Like the highest, what is sold for the highest amount, what is the lowest sold, what's available, expired listings, and reach out to these people. But again, just like learning more of the farm area so that I feel comfortable with that when I'm making these calls and I don't sound like a total idiot. And then monthly goals, I really like to send out newsletters. I've been doing that. I've only been doing this now for 2 months. So I've sent out 2 and send out newsletters and just continue to follow up with all my contacts. The yearly goals are to hopefully transfer that into several listings and work with several buyers. And then my 5-year goals are to efficiently be running a real estate business at this point and transfer out of fashion and swim. I mean, I would like to give myself less than 5 years, but I just, I don't know. And that's kind of it so far.
That's great. A couple of suggestions. You talked initially about wanting to increase your database. So have a number that you want to go towards. If you have a bigger number, then we can break it down into say, okay, this is how many contacts you want to increase your database by per week, per month. So then it ends up turning into something actionable at the end of the year. And the same thing with the amount of listings, the longer term, you want to have more buyer deals and more listings.
Make it more of a goal and like a number.
Put a number down.
Yeah.
We need to put these numbers down. It doesn't
You're
matter.
always right.
No. This is just this is time tested.
I know.
So it doesn't matter if the numbers end up not being totally accurate. That's fine. This isn't the things we're talking about. It's not concrete set in stone. But when we think about it in a purposeful way and we actually say, you know what, I'm just going to put a number down that feels right for right now, it lets us at least start. It lets us not feel like we're kind of hamstrung before we get it going. Because if we're confused about how to start, then sometimes we never start. And
Right.
inactivity is the, unfortunately, the biggest disease that we face as real estate professionals.
Yeah.
Because we're all running our own businesses here. No one is telling us this is when you need to get up in the morning. This is how many hours you need to work a day. And we know, as we talked about a little bit before, there's a lot of different pathways to success. So, but we have to put down these numbers and make it actionable. That's great. I appreciate you sharing. Okay, so we also know there's some statistics associated with this that Keller Williams has, which is that individuals that with written goals are 42.1% more likely to accomplish those goals. Individuals with accountability, which we talked about before, it goes up drastically to 77.6%. They're more likely to achieve those goals. So, I mean, I love those numbers. If we know that if we, A, write them down, B, have some accountability attached to them, we're potentially, and obviously numbers are fluid in this case, we potentially have a 77.6% chance of achieving them. I mean, we'll take that every day. I mean, that's going to create some incredible opportunities for our business. So there is reality attached to this. This isn't just talk. So we talk about how does it work, and there's a diagram, hopefully, and if any of you have any sort of a book in front of you regarding this, but it goes in kind of a circle of we set our goals, we do the activities that are necessary to achieve them, we measure the results, as we talked about before, give our chance the ability to be kind of a forensic analyst, and then having the space to course correct when we need, evaluate the process, which is just exactly that, and then make the adjustments. So that's the circle. Set the goals, do the activities, measure the results, evaluate the process, and make adjustments. If we do all of that, we have a chance to really be purposeful and not go down the wrong path for too long. That's the main thing. Now let's move on to the 411. Has anyone completed a 411? Kelly, I'm assuming you have. Do you want to share how that has helped you in the past?
I do. When I'm doing it, I do a 411 every month, and then a 20 contacts one day sheet.
Great.
And I'd say I'm 75%, on a good year, on like a really, I'm doing really well year, 75% successful getting it done. And then my money, that usually goes up, my income goes up the next year, because when you do all this, it's 90 days later, you see the results, and sometimes it just accumulates and snowballs, and then you really see the results the next year. So what happens is I always lose months. Like, I don't know what happens is I don't have an accountability partner yet, but I always wake up one day and I'm like, what happened to June, July, and August? Like, they're gone. And then I have, and it's weird. It's like my brain is kidnapped and I don't know what happened to it.
Right.
But if I did this in 2019, I was really purposeful in door knocking and making my contacts. And I was having a horrible year personally, and I made very few sales. 2019, maybe 2 deals. It was terrible. And then 2020, boom, 5 deals, and it started right away. And I'm sure it's because I talked to probably close to 4,000 people in 2019.
Right.
Door knocking, and it's just putting the energy out there. And it's literally like people seeing you walking around the neighborhood a lot and just being like, oh yeah, Kelly, so these things are lifesavers. And
yeah,
it's so simple, but it's so hard to do. This week I've made 2 contacts and it's already Thursday.
Okay, well, you still got the rest of today and Friday too. I appreciate you sharing that. So that's
Can
I have
I
a
ask one?
question.
Can I ask one question from her that about the door knocking? Because I know that door knocking, for example, in Beverly Hills is not allowed. In Bel Air is very hard. How you do the door knocking? What is the secret of door knocking?
Well, if you want, I'll put my number to everyone in the chat. Call me after, because we gotta plan businesses.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a
Thank
great
you.
question. It's a great question, and there is no secret, by the way.
No
It's-
secret.
It's
So
just
I'm
about
sort of,
it's
I'm
it's
missing
about
one.
doing it the right way and doing it consistently. And you know, we can talk about that on another call. But just for all of you who don't also know what the 411 is, it's based on 4 weeks, 1 month, and 1 year. So it's a way to set your goals of what you're doing. So it's part of the Keller Williams model, and it's a productivity tool. That's really what it is. So it's able to drive the goal settings, and you can do it. You can complete it and then just use it as a guiding principle for your year. So
Is there a specific form, Justin?
yeah. So, you know, if you don't have the form in front of you, it's called the 411 Action Goal Worksheet. And I can get it to anybody who doesn't have it. So you can just, you know, I mean, Joe, that's easy. I can get it to you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
you
I
know.
need one too.
Okay, Abu, you got it. So just reach out
I
to
need
me.
one too as well, please.
Okay, so just reach out to me afterwards and I'll make sure you all have it.
Can I ask a quick
and
question really
here's
quickly
the
about,
here's the important, yes, go ahead.
sorry, not to interrupt, just before we move on, with door-to-door knocking, isn't it across LA you can't do it because of COVID for now?
Right now, we can't do any door knocking, but
Okay.
it's important for us to talk about, there is a world that, you know, eventually we're gonna be out of this thing. So it's important for us to talk about pre and post.
Right.
And know what steps we can take to drive business.
Right. Okay,
So
thank you.
here's the most important thing about this worksheet also. This is based off a 52 week, but here's the thing. We're not working 52 weeks, okay? So be realistic about this. You know, most likely there's gonna be a week during the winter holidays where you're not going to be reaching out to clients. And there's always exceptions. I have done deals on Christmas. I have done deals on New Year's Eve, but you know, sometimes those are one-off. So let's just be realistic about, you know, we have mega agent camp. We have family reunion. There is, you know, the week of Thanksgiving. There's weeks of winter holidays, you know, depending on what you celebrate, religion, whatever, there's going to be times where you're not going to be working. So don't base it off a 4 week every month. What I would recommend is that you print out this sheet 12 times. So for each one of the year, and then, you know that there are certain weeks that you're not going to be working. But this will be used to track your job goals and your business goals, your financial goals, and your personal goals, as we've seen by some of the examples that you all have shared. So that's really important too about that. And I can get that to you. I'm sure Alfredo might have a copy of it as well. So we'll keep moving because it seems like not a lot of people have it. And as far as the tracking, you can also use Command. I don't see that Blake is on here, but hopefully he will be tomorrow. But you can use Command also to track your goals. Let's use the resources that we have. Let's help ourselves out, right? We have so much to do on a given day. So let's really let the resources that Keller Williams have for us be a real support system for us getting things done and also holding ourselves accountable. Is how many of you, just by show of hands of people that actually have their screen up, are using Command already and are leveraging that in your business? Okay, I see a few, which is good. It's better than zero. You know, try to become a little more focused on that, especially during potentially these times of the year where business might slow down for a week. It's a great time to start learning more about that. So when you get into 2021, you're not still searching. You're not still trying to figure it out. So now let's move on to the 3L foundational model for MREA, and that is listings, leverage. And so let's talk about leverage. We know that we need leads, listings, and that will create leverage for us. Leverage is about time versus money, as we know. It comes from people, it comes from systems, and it comes from tools. And we all have to know that we're going to actually do it. How are you going to do it? And what will you use to do it? So, you know, we know that this will be helpful in creating this business plan. So it's really important. So it goes, because maybe you might not have it in front of you, it's just a basic triangle. And there's listings on one side of the triangle, there's leverage on the other side, and then there's leads at the bottom. So it'll give us clarity though in being able to achieve these goals. So I would just suggest to you that you look through all these resources. And one initiative that I'm going to take some accountability and responsibility for is I'm going to create an easier way for all of the agents in our market center to find this information, because we have so much information from years and years of training, and sometimes we can kind of get lost in the mire with it all. So I'm going to take it on myself, with some support also from the market center, to create more of like create kind of more modules, or create some things that will make it a little easier to find. So we won't waste our time with trying to access information that we know will help us succeed. So just want to kind of let everyone know that. Now let's talk about the 5 fundamental models. There's the economic model, which we're going to go into today. There is the lead generation model, which we'll also go into today. There's the budget model, the organization model, and the expansion model. The expansion model, we're not going to go into either of the days, and that's really about building out your team. If you are in that place where you need to do that, we absolutely can help support you with that. But just for the purposes of this business plan, we're not going to spend any time on that. So day 1 is going to be focused on the economic model and the lead gen model, and then day 2 is going to be focused on the budget model and the organizational model. So the economic model, that's the first of the fundamental models, and that will, every other model will be part of this economic model. It's really the engine of our business, if we can think about it that way. It's a statement from where we are today, and also where we are going to go. And where we're going to go, that's identified as a pro forma model. That's in the future. If you don't have anything written, or you don't have any ideas of it, you could create a pro forma model even today. Because if we don't have anything to go on, then we're going to have to think about the future anyway. So it's just where you individually are with your thought process. But it's really powerful nonetheless. So the benefits are, it's going to reveal how many units, so how many sales we need to accomplish our goals, how many appointments, our conversion rate. It's not just about the incomes. It's going to identify also our areas of improvement and allow us to create real mastery over our business. And it'll keep us thinking about a kind of profit first perspective, which is really important if we're running this business. And we know we have expenses as we're running this business. It'll help you create a budget because of that. And it also provide these benchmarks, which will be able to hold ourselves accountable to, which will be really helpful for everyone to stay on track. So that's really important. The economic model, does anyone have it? Does anyone have it up so they can kind of follow along by a show of hands? All right, Adam,
Where are you
we
pulling
got
this
one.
from?
I'm pulling this from the business planner. There was,
That was in the email, like with the Zoom link.
that's right.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
There was only one page that,
So if you go on, I know there were reminders sent out. You know, if you go on KW Connect and you go into the resources, where it shows the business planning, and there's a whole student section side, where it has that. So I know there were kind of reminders sent out, but I know we're all busy and sometimes we don't see everything that's sent to us. So I will go through it. You can take some notes, or you also can take a couple of minutes and try to find it through KW Connect, through the resources. It might be helpful. Why don't we do that? Why don't we take 2 minutes? Why don't you all go on there and find the economic model, just so you can actually see it with your own eyes. So let's take a couple of minutes and have everyone find it.
I just sent the link in the chat.
What's up, Kat? Thank you for doing that.
Of
I
course.
appreciate it. All right, even easier.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So that's going to help a lot. So that is based off of net income of $1 million and a GCI of $2.5 million. Now I want to make it very clear to everybody, that doesn't have to be your goal just because it's written in here, okay? If your goal is something else, then that's fine. You know, we can talk about having a goal that's half that amount. I mean, that's a really successful year for a lot of people, of having a net income of $500,000. That's massive for a lot of people. And you could half it again, and your goal could be a net income of $250,000 or somewhere in between. It doesn't have to be these set numbers, but have a specific number you're reaching towards. So keep in mind also with the 2.5 million GCI, you're not doing this alone, okay? So that's really important to know. At that point, you have a support system, you have a team, you have somebody who is supporting you in an admin related basis. You might have a buyer's agent or two at this point. So don't look at it like it's going to be impossible for you to handle, because you're going to have others that are going to help you in support of your goals. So that's really important. So are most people looking at this at this point? Show of hands. Okay, that's a lot. Great.
Just
Kat,
tell us what
thanks.
page you're on. Yeah, no problem.
I have a different one, but it should be around like 3, somewhere like 3.0, 3.1.
Okay.
Around there.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I go there, I can only find the one page, the business planning clinic. So I'm wondering what I'm doing wrong.
Did you click on the link that Kat put in the chat box?
I did.
Samantha, I just did another one that's specifically just what we're reading. So
Okay.
that should
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kat.
no problem.
So also it's important to note what is kind of pre-written in here of an average commission amount is $7,150. Now here's the good news, people. We are out of the Beverly Hills Market Center. Our average sale price is 1.675. And we know that there are a lot of deals that happen that are far less than that in purchase price. And of course, there are that are above that. So just to keep it a little cleaner for the purposes of this business planning, I used a $1 million. So that would equate to, let's just say 25,000, or even just a clean 25,000 rather than 7,150. So why is this exciting? It means we don't have to do as many, we don't have to take as many appointments. We don't have to convert as many to get to that same number. You can all give yourselves a little thank you for deciding to be in a market center where the average price is not $238,000, which I think is the number that was chosen by Keller Williams International. So, so that's good. So if we have say an average commission amount of 25,000, that changes some things for us. Is everyone following now? Show of hands. Nods. Cool. We got some. All right. If you're not, I will try to explain it if you don't have it in front of you. So yeah, I'll run down it. So we start with total GCI or net income, either way. If we know that net income is what ultimately is going to go in our pocket before taxes, we can start with the end in mind. That's something that Keller Williams is very focused on. Start with the end in mind. We can reverse engineer our success. So that's why the model, it looks kind of top to bottom and looks in a different way than you would potentially use if you were using a different type of equation. So net income of $1 million. Keller Williams has chosen 30% for operating expenses, which is kind of an industry standard with commercial as well. If you're ever evaluating an apartment building, you can use like a 30% as operating expenses as well. Cost of sale, that also 30%. So that'd be like on a 70-30 split around there. And some of you are higher. And of course, when you cap, then those numbers change for the better as well.
I'm sorry, are we looking at a piece of paper or something? Are we following something, or are you just?
So
There's
hopefully,
the Excel spreadsheet. If you go to the materials tab and you look at the choices on the bottom, it says economic model, and it's not the 195 page book. It's Excel, right? It's an Excel worksheet. It's got all the formulas already in it, called economic model.
exactly. Thank you, Kelly.
Sure.
Now, the one I'm looking
Where
at,
is that? Where is that? Where is that? I only have the booklet. Where is the economic model, the materials tab?
So
I
it's
see the materials tab.
Yeah, so it's under your resources. So you'll see business planning.
It'll be
Clinic.
under MREA, economic budget, profit and loss, P&L worksheet.
Oh, okay, got it.
And it's-
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll go for anyone who can't find it or doesn't have access. That's why I'm kind of going through it with each line. So if we have a commission amount, excuse me, of 25,000, that equates to 100 total units sold. And keep in mind that might seem daunting to a lot of people. 100 units sold annually, that seems like a ton. But keep in mind, you have a team at this point. You have other people that are helping you. You have a buyer's agent or two who are also completing transactions. So it's not you doing 100 deals with no help, like a chicken with your head cut off. So just keep in mind, let's not be frightened by this number. Now we're going to split it from sell side to buy side. So 50% on each. And of course, not everyone's business is an even 50%. Some is going to be higher on one side or the other. That's just the way it is. But for the purposes of this, let's do that. So 50% on each side. At 100 units sold, that's 50 buyer listings sold and 50 sellers listings sold. We use a 70% conversion rate because that's a kind of a standard rate that's agreed upon throughout the industry. And once again, that can be higher than that depending on how successful you are with your business. And if it's below that, then that is an opportunity to course correct, to look back at your business plan and say, what am I doing wrong here? Why am I at 65 instead of at least 70? So the next field is the total sellers listing needed and total buyers listing needed to accomplish this goal. So we get around 71 for each side on that, divided by the 75% of appointment conversion rate. Okay. And once again, it's 75% on the sell side. versus 70% on the buy side. The reason for that is that if you're already with a seller and they're agreeing to sell, you have a greater chance of actually being able to do business with that person. We know buyers, the conversion comes down to what Keller Williams talks about, and what we've talked about before is getting a buyer's listing agreement signed. That can be more difficult. Buyers sometimes take, it's tougher to convert potentially, without having that buyer's listing agreement signed if they're potentially talking to more than one realtor. So that's why the conversion rate is a little less at 70%, but still fairly high. So then the next field on both sides is appointments.
I have a quick question about that. Maybe it's off on a tangent, but I mean, how realistic is it to get someone to sign a buyer's agreement?
Very.
Okay.
So I'll give you kind of a little bit, and we can talk offline about it too. But two things that are really important about it is don't present it like it's a big deal. Don't present it like it's anything bigger than it is. Buyers and sellers of real estate know that they have to sign paperwork in order to complete a transaction. Communicate it that it's just another document that they have to sign. This gives you the ability to focus on them completely. This gives you the ability to service their needs completely. So just the main thing is have it be just a very casual thing. A lot of agents make this mistake and it becomes this big thing. Even the tone of their voice when they're talking about it becomes like this, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get this. What if they just have it be more of a casual thing? And it's easy to understand.
But okay, so on the other side of that, because I also want to do the right thing. I don't want to be, especially if these people are my friends. I mean, in that conversation, I know we can take this offline, but in that conversation, do I also have to say, this is an exclusive? I mean, meaning you can't go with another agent. You have to spell that out. I know it's not a big thing, but it is kind of a big thing. If somebody else comes with a better house for them, why should they go with me? And if they sign the buyer's agreement, they can't. So does that get all spelled out when you talk to someone who wants to buy?
Every form that anyone should put their signature on should be explained to them. Doesn't matter what form it is. So that's a given. Keep in mind something. So this is we'll do some role play and I'll explain to you all this stuff. We're already at we're getting to that hour and a half mark and we still have a lot to accomplish here, but I will get you incredibly clear about all this and you'll knock this out. I promise. And I'll also send you I cover this on another objection call. I'll send you that link as well.
Okay.
So appointments needed on the seller and buyer side, what it equates to is on the seller side, because we're at a 75% conversion rate, it's about 94 appointments. And on the buyer side, because it's a lower conversion rate, it's 101 appointments, okay? Now, that equates to about 8.4, let's call it anywhere between 8 and 9 a month, okay? And on the seller side, or let's even take it to the weekly. On the buyer side, about 2 a week. And on the seller side, about 2 a week also. So even though the percentages are a little off, it's about the same. 2 a week on each side, so 4 a week total. Doesn't seem that scary anymore, does it? It doesn't seem like it seems like now that's pretty doable. So, it's important as we look at these numbers and as we're purposeful with them, we understand that once again, with our support, with our team, we can do this. There's enough business to go around for all of us on this call and for every agent in Los Angeles who is purposeful with their business. There is a massive amount of real estate in this business. So why is it that 20% of the agents are closing 80% of the deals. It's because they're more purposeful. It's because they're getting after it. It's because they believe in themselves and they still have fear, but they are pushing through it. That's it. Simple stuff. So once we understand these numbers, we're like, okay, wow, only 2 a week on each side. And we have our scripts right. We go in, we're confident, we feel good about it. And we're not going to, once again, this is with a conversion rate of 70 or 75%. This isn't like, oh, I have to get every listing, or I have to close on every buyer that I meet. That's, you know, this is based in reality, which is good. Let's talk about some quick benefits. So this provides a number of appointments and units sold to meet your goal. It reveals your conversion rate and identifies it for improvement. Once again, allows for mastery and keeps focus on profit first. So it's a framework for how the investments you're going to make in yourself, how this can actually come to fruition. So now let's talk. Does anyone have any questions about just the overall kind of picture of this? No. Great. Wow. I guess I did a pretty good job of explaining this.
I have a question though. Should you read the materials that are also part of the materials tab to understand how to do the worksheet?
I would say read everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the more we read, the more we have a chance to understand. And also, the more we understand, the more we can focus on how we want our business to run. You know, it's not about following this to the point where we don't leave room for ourselves and our own creativity or how we want to run our specific business. But these are really actionable guidelines. And when we have these guidelines with numbers attached to them, we can figure out, you know, if we're not hitting those numbers, why. We can go back and say, what's going on? And we'll talk about a little bit of that later. So there's this kind of concentric circle that Keller Williams puts up, and it's about the 3 kind of most important things when it comes to creating outcomes. It's performance plus investment. If anyone can see that, great. If not, I'll read them off real quick. Performance is our behavior, our skill level, our ability, and our resources. And our resources are the leads, the appointments that we're scheduling and going on, the talent that we have, which is, you know, ourselves, our teammates, our systems and our tools. And on the investment side, it's time. We're always investing our time. It's the cost of the sale. You know, that's what we're giving back essentially, and our operating expenses. And we'll go over kind of what those entail. Those outcomes from those 2, you know, outer areas of the circle meet in the middle in these concentric circles of the outcomes of gross commission income and then net income. So it's all stuff that we understand theoretically. I'm just explaining it because I have these circles in front of me, and hopefully it helps you to think about it a different way. So this next thing that we're going to go over is the 30-30-40 model, which represents how much of your GCI goes into operating expenses, goes into the cost of sale, and your net income. These are derived from like looking at our P&L of many millionaire real estate agents. So once again, Keller Williams did the hard work and asked what made these agents successful. And with enough data, we can see, okay, here are some things that keep coming up more and more. And you can do it yourselves also with colleagues that you know, either in the office or out of the office, in the brand or out of the brand, that are being successful. You interview enough other agents, which I always promote, you'll see that there's some overlapping either numbers that they're working towards or ways they're running their business. So we can kind of model it after that. So the gross commission, and I'll just give a few definitions if people don't know, that's going to be the total amount of revenue from all the sales transactions completed. Our operating expenses are all the costs of doing business, including marketing, if we're renting an office, any salaries of people that we're potentially paying, and any equipment and supplies. It also is the advertising. So that's all goes into our operating expenses. And the cost of sale is really your commission that your split and any kind of referrals you're paying out to people, royalties, any of that kind of stuff. So, and the net income is the amount of profit in your business before taxes. So that's important that you know it's also before taxes. California is not the friendliest state when it comes to taxes. So, to put it lightly. So let's also know that at a certain point in the year, you should make sure, which is the part of the year we're in now, that you're budgeting out for those taxes that you're going to be paying. So you understand how those numbers change when we all get hit where we don't want to. So this kind of way of looking at business is how businesses will look at their formula, how they will look at the revenues that they want to earn. They look at it through all these metrics. This is how they think about cash flow. So business owners traditionally will use this economic model in some form to predict their current habits and how their investments will actually manifest into net income. So, in the very beginning, the pre-worksheet asked you to list what you would need to maintain your lifestyle. So this is also important as we're looking at this. If what you need to maintain your lifestyle, getting out of debt. When you think of all these goals, the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, 5-year, someday, this model works for all levels of income. So we always want to know what our goals are for our net income, because that's what we're putting in our pocket. That's what we have at the end of the year. So that's important. We can look at this cash flow graph. Hopefully somebody has it in front of them other than me. If not, I will go through it. So no big deal there. We're looking at a total GCI once again of 2.5 million.
Where is this?
This is going to be in the cash flow model of the economic model. I don't know what page it is on in your worksheet.
It's on page 38.
Thank you. Thank you. So definitely not complicated.
Business planning clinic. That's the page.
Yes, exactly. So that's where that's where we're here. So not complicated, but it's a kind of an interesting way of looking at where the GCI split from the listing side to the buyer side. The way Keller Williams has it is they have your buyer's agents, because remember, this is a team game. Your buyer's agents on your way to 2.5 million GCI are going to get a piece of that commission because they're working towards, they have a commission related. So that's why that number is high. So it's split on both sides. So from 2.5 million GCI, it splits to the buyer side of 1.25 and the seller side of 1.25. Makes sense, right? We don't know it's always going to be 50-50, but for the purpose of this model, that's what it is. The buyer side, the cost of sale is going to be $625,000. And that's based on, multiple buyer's agents working with you as the leader of the team. Okay. And on the listing side, you might have a listing agent who is salaried at $125,000. So you're the rainmaker, you're the team leader, but you might have these other people that are on your team in order to accomplish this. So that adds up to $750,000, which is 30% of this 30-30-40. So operating expenses being 30%, cost of sales being 30%, what's left over, net income 40%. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but that's just another way to look at your cash flow. So let's keep it moving. And then also, make sure you ask yourself if do you know your conversion rates from lead to appointment? If you don't, then we have to figure that out. And we have to figure that out, knowing that we have to strive for something and also not be satisfied with whatever we're doing now. Because we all have some room to learn here. So let's see where we're kind of going next as we keep this moving. And once again, like I brought up before, there is an example of a half MREA economic model. So if you want to start out at a 500,000 net income, which is totally successful, I mean, that's a major stretch for a lot of people. That's great. So use that and use those numbers and know that if that's your goal, then that's great. It doesn't have to be $1 million. If $1 million is something that is in your year 2, 3, or 4, or 5, that's great. That's totally fine. So it's important though, that we are tracking our progress every step of the way. And once again, we can do that in Command. So let's talk about avoiding these economic model traps. Not understanding the power of the economic model. If you guys have a lot of questions, we can also take conversations offline so you're clear about it, because that's really important. It's about checking in where you are today and then also using it as a tool to plan for tomorrow. Another trap is not using the model as a basis for your decision making. You'll have some solid numbers to work with, so let that be your guide with how you're deciding to run your business for the next year. Another trap would be not looking at your business as a whole. And that's what this model does, right? It makes you look at, okay, where am I today? What are the factors that I need to evaluate in order to get into the future? So really use it as that whole guide. Another trap would be not knowing or improving your conversion rates. So if you identify that you're not getting to where you need to get to, you're going on a lot of listing presentations, but your conversion rate is like 50%, then that's an opportunity for success to be able to change and say, okay, I know what's not working. Let me know, you're thinking in your head, let me know how I can improve. And we can figure out these answers together, because there's a certain conversion rate, which really just makes sense. So, we talk about time with this too. Like, what are we doing with time? You want to ask yourself, how long are you spending on these listing appointments? About an hour to an hour 15 is pretty normal. So if you're getting into like 3 hours, then most likely, number one, you didn't send a pre-listing packet ahead of time to really gauge the potential concerns of the seller that you're going to be meeting with, which I really implore you all to do. Have a pre-listing packet. Make sure it has some really great questions in there to understand areas of concern, and also areas that is going to make your relationship with that seller be as strong as it can be, and what's going to make for an A+ experience when you're with that seller. So that's really, really important. And as an aside, whatever information they give you, know that should be your main focal points of your listing presentation. Oftentimes as realtors, we make a mistake and we just have our own agenda. We have our own plan because we worked hard to plan it, to prep for it, and we just want to be a runaway train and make sure we say everything that we think the seller wants to hear and is on our mind because we planned for it. This is a mistake. Focus on what your audience wants to hear. That is what you want to do. And at the end of the listing presentation, if there still seems like there's an objection, but you can't put your finger on it yet, and I did a whole class about the 12 most common seller objections that I can email that link out to anyone if they want to watch it. I think it's really, really helpful. you can ask them, hey, is there anything that we didn't cover that we can flush out? I want to make sure you feel perfectly comfortable and that I've done my job in answering all of your questions. So that's a time when maybe some things that weren't discussed on the onset can be discussed later. But really, really important to focus on the information that you get from that pre-listing packet. Let that be a guide for you. Okay, so once you have that, you should be purposeful with your time. We're thinking about conversion rates, right? And if we're thinking about an hour to an hour, 15 minutes per listing appointment, that means if you do, if you're doing one a day even, which is great. And we know we work during the weekends. Fortunately, unfortunately, that's our reality. So that's 7 to 8 hours a week. That's not bad. That shouldn't seem daunting to anyone. Think of how you're leveraging your time. Think of you committing 7 hours a week, what that frees you up with the rest of your week. That's only 7 hours of your entire week, or 8 hours of your entire week, or 9 hours, or even 10 hours. No big deal. That's really important. So keep in mind when we're understanding our conversion rates, how we're going to be purposeful when we're actually in front of the client too. Another trap would be not knowing how much lead generation is required to secure the appointments needed. And as we went through this model, we know that we put that data in place to clearly define that. So that's important. And the last trap would be not using the economic model to help create other models within MREA as well, which we're going to go over today and tomorrow. So let's keep it going. I will wait for Blake to discuss leveraging with technology. Hopefully he'll be on tomorrow, but definitely use Command to help you. And now let's talk about let me see where we're headed to next. So conversion ratio is going to give you feedback, right? So we just talked about that. When you're taking a listing, if you have a closing ratio, you want to expect 70 to 75%, like we talked about. We can use that as a minimum goal. So if you go on listing appointments, you should expect to get 7 to 8 of those listings signed out of, say, 10. So does that seem like a fair number to everybody? Show of hands. Yes, no, little bit. I'm seeing some wavering. Okay. It is fair based on your preparation that you're going to do ahead of time. And if you're going to be there, we want to be there fully, purposefully, and be really prepared, and to know no one is going to beat us with this listing presentations. Sometimes we still lose them once in a while, but it shouldn't be because of the preparation we did or the communication we did or the value we're creating. Sometimes we're just not going to win it at that point, and that's just the way it goes. So once you know that you're aiming for, say, 7 to 8 out of 10, you start to control the leverage of your time. You know exactly the number you need to be able to hit your goals. So it becomes very actionable, which is really important. If you fall below that 70% conversion, once again, it's an opportunity to look and say, how should we interpret this? Like, what are we doing wrong? Is it our value proposition is not connecting? Use this time to potentially take on a role play partner, someone who's either more experienced than you or even at your same level of experience, and run it through with them and have them pick out points where you potentially lost them or just for areas of improvement. So I'd really impress upon you to all do that. What about listings taken to listings sold? If a property isn't selling, what are the 3 kind of main reasons for that? Who wants to jump in? If a property isn't selling, what are the 3 reasons why you don't have the listing sold?
Price.
Cat, that's
Price.
1. Any others?
Condition,
Condition. What's the last one?
Marketing?
Marketing. Marketing can contribute. Hopefully we've done our work ahead of time, and that hopefully shouldn't be it when it comes down to the property.
Then maybe location.
What's that?
Location?
There it is. See, we got some highly intelligent people on this call right here. So those are the 3. There's a couple of things we can control. Excuse me. There's a couple of things we can't control, and there is something we can control. So I think we all know what those are. So out of those 3, the likely problem is price.
Justin, sorry. There is also a market. Like sometimes it's not as, market is slow or down, and that could attribute to the process and make it longer, delay the selling process. Do you agree with that?
I don't. No. If the market is slow, that means that you still have a pricing problem, because you can sell a doghouse in any market if it's priced right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I agree that sometimes there are more challenging markets, if financing is tied up, and that just means your buyer pool is smaller. But we all know, anyone who's even starting out in real estate to the people who've been doing real estate for a long time, there are a lot of people in Los Angeles who want to transact. We just have to give them a reason to. So in a lot of time, it's a price. We have to kind of price reposition, and that's going to be a problem. So that's just, once again, it comes down to a way we can take a forensic approach and look at our business, and we're not having the ratio of conversion. So what about the buy side? If you're not hitting your conversion, what's the problem? And this is, once again, if we already have a buyer's representation agreement signed. So what do you think the problem is if we're not able to be in escrow with the buyer? I know I still have the same smart people on this call, so let's not be shy. Let's not be shy.
I come up with one reason.
Tell me.
Financing. We go all the way, towards the end. We have the pre-approval, and for some reason the buyer doesn't get approved, and we fall out of escrow.
Okay, so that's the kind of starting point that folds into something which we can identify as needs analysis. So at the beginning, as we all know, we need to only work with buyers who are pre-approved. If they say, "Oh, I'm good for this amount," you can say that's great. Here's the good news. Sometimes my clients have been surprised in the past with they actually had a stronger purchasing power than they eventually thought. Than they initially thought. So let's just make sure you get pre-approved so we're all on the same page. And so, yeah, pre-approval falls under that, one of those topics of the needs analysis. So what would be another thing?
Do you think market supply?
Market supply, I'm talking about just getting an offer submitted, right? So market supply has a bearing. It might make your job more challenging, but we know there's still multiple properties available, even in the
If the buyer has unrealistic expectations.
Right, so that goes into the needs analysis. So Phyllis, you're right on the money with that. So yeah, if you have an unrealistic buyer, then it's tough. But we have to know that we have to have a really intentional interview with them, ask them why, If they say, I need a pool, why? Is it because you had a pool when you were a child and you had fun swimming? Is that, is it something they have in their mind or something they really need? Is it because they're going to take swim lessons, or they swim every morning when they wake up? They have kids that they love to swim in the pool, so they need that. Or is it just this idea that a house over a certain price point should have a pool? What if you're searching for in an area where there aren't many pools? So ask why. Have a really thoughtful interview with them, and it'll build trust as well. So the other thing is your value proposition. And this is kind of what I a little bit just hinted at. It's about you not communicating that they should work with you, that you're not the best person to serve them in their goals. We deal with this objection that I dealt with on another one of my calls about, why would a buyer go straight to a listing agent? There's a reason why this is happening, people. It's not an accident. It's because our value proposition is not in line with what the market is doing. While we can't control people's decisions, we can sure show them in many different ways that their best decision is to work with us, that we have their best goals. If you have a listing agent who's hired by the seller, even though that agent has a fiduciary responsibility to both parties, who's buttering their bread? The higher amount of an offer they get, that directly correlates to the happiness most of the time of that seller. That seller is going to become a buyer. That agent wants to work with that seller to become a buyer. If A plus B, the rest. So there's so many talking points with that. So be very clear about your value proposition. If your conversion rate on your buyer side is hitting a lot of stumbling blocks, and I can talk about this with anyone offline, because there are so many things you can say. So you should never feel like you're at a loss if a buyer says, "Oh, I'm just going to go straight to the listing agent," thinking that they're getting a deal. It's fool's gold, and there are also statistics that show that buyer is not going to get any better of a deal. They're actually not going to get a deal at all. So we have to kind of make sure that the buyer knows this is a myth. We have to dispel this myth. So oftentimes it's just a problem sometimes with just your offer strategy, which is really, what is that really about? It's really just ends up being about pricing and terms, which we all know. So now let's take a moment to dig into this 411 action sheet. So let's say, let's come back at 12:05. It looks like it's 11:58 right now. And while we don't know all the numbers, because I know not everyone has done this work ahead of time, you have this action goal sheet. Hopefully everyone can find that, but on an annual basis, it's your net income, it's your units sold, it's the number of listing appointments, the number of buyers appointments, and then your monthly goals, number of listing appointments, number of buyers appointments. And then you want to figure out, like I said before, how you'd want to divide those appointments per week. If you want to say, okay, if you're basing it off a 4-week month, that's fine. Or if you're basing off, sometimes it's a 4-week month, and then sometimes it's a 3-week month, depending on if you're at mega agent camp or winter holidays, whatever it might be. Give yourself that work-life balance. Okay, let's not pretend that we're going to work effectively 52 weeks of the year. That's not realistic. And we also don't want to say, okay, I'm just going to start doing this in January and hope for some magic. So let's do it now. So let's reconvene at 12:05, and then take your weekly goals, 1 through 4, and put down some information. Start writing, people. Okay, who wants to share? Now, I understand that, I guess a lot of you haven't had a chance to look at this information before. So at a minimum, we can use this time today, and you now have the faculties to know how you should evaluate the information to put down. So that's that's important. Would anyone like to share what they came up with? Nobody? It's kind of sad. Somebody wants to share. I can feel it. No wrong answers here.
Just to be clear, this was the MREA economic model, right?
That's where we were talking, and then we moved into the action goal worksheet, which takes on some of the answers that were derived from that and puts them into the goal worksheet.
Oh, gotcha. The 411, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Anyone want to share?
I don't have it yet. Sorry.
Okay, it's
I'll-
okay. So
But
in
you're- yeah.
the interest of time, and I know that a lot of people, this is the first time they're looking at this. You all can do this offline, and I'll probably have to I'll be teaching another one of these because knowing that not everyone had a chance to look at it, we can be clearer on the next time I teach this. So I'm happy to do that. Now you all know how to access this information, which is important. So let's move on to something that doesn't take planning, but is still equally important. Let's discuss the lead generation model. So everyone can come back to the party now. Lead generation model. This is people who have shown some sort of interest in your services you offer, but people that you necessarily haven't engaged in a two-way conversation. This is a difference between leads and contacts. Leads, it's still one way. It's a bit of an introduction. If you have a contact that becomes two-way, an example is you're able to call and say, hey, Jim, I know I've been sending you my market reports over the last 3 months. How have you liked them? What do you think? Has that been helpful for you to understand the market? And then you get a response. So that's where it becomes a two-way conversation, and that's where a lead becomes a contact. It's not a stranger, where a cold lead becomes a warmer lead. So that's a key difference, whether you've spoken to each other and it can be, somebody, and it's someone that you're actively trying to really do business with. So that's important. And we know there's multiple lead generation styles. What are you doing right now? How are you are you doing prospecting, or you're doing cold calling? Are you doing marketing? We'll go over the differences between, or are you doing both? Are you figuring out that one is not going to lead you to success, and you have to be really purposeful and using all the resources at your disposal? And that's what I would definitely recommend. There's room in your schedule, as we learned when we talked about how many listing appointments and buyer appointments you need to convert to be successful at that $1 million mark, or even $500,000 net income mark. So you have room in your schedule to do both. We talk about which takes more time and which also costs more time for us. And there's a definite difference, and how we can generate leads more quickly. That's really important. So marketing, there's a triangle, which maybe you don't have access to. So I'll explain to you how the diagram works. There's a triangle with a point, kind of facing up, and marketing is at the top. It's kind of talking about the difference. Marketing is very money intensive, right? We have to invest in our business, and we don't see the ROI on that right away. And we also know that if we don't market consistently, we have no chance to see the ROI down the line. There's a false sense of, of potential success, that if we put out this amazing marketing initiative, that we're automatically, because it's great, we're going to get our ROI on that first try. It's not necessarily going to happen. So it's a longer term commitment, and you have to put money behind it. And there's some of it that's free on social, but if you're doing flyers or postcards, letters, all of that takes money. So it's money intensive. It's also passive, right? We're not picking up the phone. And like I talk about, there's a delayed response time. Whereas prospecting is time intensive. We know we talked about you have to put a certain amount of hours in your day to prospecting. Single most important thing with marketing. If you all did nothing else and just prospected, and that word can mean a lot of things. So it's also client management. It's also just reaching out to people to say hello, but you're engaged in communication with those people. Here's the big picture idea. They don't forget what you do for a living. They don't forget that they should be referring you to other people they have in their database. They don't forget that you are the person they can trust wholeheartedly to guide them through a real estate transaction. So that's really important. So that's the difference between the two. And you're also, of course, getting immediate response, and it's proactive. And for the people that are on this call, do you feel like you're doing both, or are you doing one over the other? Who wants to share? This isn't about numbers, so we can all jump in on this part of the conversation.
I think I'm doing both.
Yeah? Tell
Yeah.
me more. Thank you for sharing.
Of course. So I don't know. I think prospecting is like more important. So like if I have 6 hours today, I would like spend maybe 70% of this time prospecting, but then I would spend maybe like 30% of the remaining time on marketing. That's what I'm doing.
That's
like a longer game. I understand that, but prospecting can get me like results now.
That's
I'm
perfectly
marketing for tomorrow and prospecting for today. Like that's what I'm doing.
perfectly said. Perfectly said. Keep in mind, all the marketing you're doing is big picture. Like a lot of what we're talking about today is big picture. As we set goals for not just today and tomorrow and next week and next month, but into next year and into the future. Your marketing is part of your brand building. It's your ability to proactively make a decision to say you want people in your marketplace to know what your brand is. So that, Lara, you said it perfectly. And I appreciate you sharing. Anyone else? No wrong answers. I assume not all of you are doing it equally. And Lara's numbers, that's something we should all be striving towards too. And she's a newer agent, so that's incredible focus, and that's really impressive. Anyone else kind of want to share? Okay, well, let's keep it moving then.
I mean, I'm trying to do, I recently met up, like did a Zoom call with, what's her name? Alyssa in Title. And I got she provided me with like the list of addresses for my farm area. So I've actually walked the farm area and just like looked at a couple of old houses that should be sold and renovated. And so I'm trying to match up the phone numbers with those people and reach out to them, maybe like leave something on their doorstep. But it takes some time. So I'm in the process of doing that, but.
Really smart and really creative. And this is about seeing opportunities where others don't. And that's exactly what you're doing. And it's also about doing some things differently than others are doing. Yeah. That's really important as well. So the more creative we are and the more we look at how can I outwork my competition and how can I outwork myself from last year, and am I the real estate agent I would want to hire? If we use that as our kind of compass, we can get pretty far in this profession. So let's review a list of the lead generation activities. Do any of you have that form If
Hey
not,
Justin, sorry, it's Alfredo. I didn't know you're gonna go past 12, and Kristen has her class at 12, so she's waiting to get her class started.
Okay, well, then let's, we can pick this up tomorrow with lead generation at the same time. So that's what we'll do. So we only have one Zoom account we can use at the same time. Is that the deal? I guess. So.
Correct. Yes, because
Okay.
the other ones we pay for this one, and so because we could get more time, this is the one account we pay for. Correct.
Got it. Okay. Well, then I would just
at 10 a.m.
Yeah, tomorrow at 10 a.m. I would
Yeah.
impress upon everybody, please, please, please look through this information. You can find the resources through KW Connect, look through the lead generation activities and beyond, and then we can have probably slightly more purposeful conversation about it tomorrow. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks
can we
everyone
have
for
this
their,
at the email?
excuse me?
Is it possible you email us the form?
Yeah, I don't, I know we have to get off this call, but if you go on KW Connect, it's all right there. I just want to be respectful of Kristen and her class she's about to
All right.
start.
Thank you, Justin.
So,
See you
thanks,
tomorrow.
guys. I will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.